Hello and welcome back to Let's Play Doom 2 the way it did with Antroid and Alfonzo.
How you doing?
Yep. We are loading straight into map 23, whatever that is. I have never pronounced that word out loud in my whole life.
Crucible. It's like sort of center point around which... oh, it's like a pot of some sort, I don't know.
Pot?
Not a pot. I'm supposed to be good at English. I'm gonna have to go look it up now. I knew what it was when I said it, and it's used in like a fountain or something. Anyway, it's applicable for hell. This is hit scan hell. This is
I see now.
McGee turned up to the max thanks to Tansman. It's a nice short little map. It's probably one of the only maps that doesn't really have an extensive history behind it. It sort of was made, was good, was put in, and was never spoken of again. It was one of the no-brainers. So forgive me if discussion on this one's a little bit scant.
Yeah, I can feel somewhere talking about the previous maps, which I once again replayed. I think this was a bad idea to do this again. I replayed at work last 2 days.
Oh yeah.
Well, there is not much actually too new to say about the city episode from me. Whoa, ho, 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 ho. No. No. Oh my fuck.
You're not gonna get much relief by rushing forward to pick up items.
Okay, let's camp then. Basically, well, I enjoyed the city episode very much, although I have to say that the shipyard is a bit bullshit. I found out from pistol start because I think there's not an encounter and there is not a tight, I don't know, just very tight and very movement constricting, especially that one with the Mancubi and the demons, and that one ambush that I complimented actually
yeah.
For some reason.
That's my fault. I think the Essel or Tons did some preliminary thing placement on it, and then I just kind of went to town the rest of it. So most of the bullshit encounters are my fault. I'm pretty sure just the pain elemental setup in the middle was Tansman's doing.
Well, I think since the map is pretty tight in places, you wouldn't really have made a difference unless, of course, you changed up all those monsters to, I don't know, health pickups. But overall, maybe I was having a bad day that day because I died a couple times on that map, I died a couple times on the next map, then I went home and I tried Exile from Pistol Start for no reason, and I got so frustrated by that map, you have no idea. That map is even worse, it's so much worse from Pistol Start, especially since I for some reason also do not really save when I do those Pistol Starts kind of tryouts.
Oh yeah, no, that's what I like to do. I like to mix and match. I do streaming so much, honestly, that I spend so much of my time saving. It's, you know, I sometimes forget how fun it is to play, you know, just from the start of the map right through to the end without saving and suddenly getting all nervous over previously very trivial encounters. It's fun. For anyone who hasn't tried that sort of setup before, you should give it a go, at least
That really brings attention back to the gameplay if you don't save, because then every single hit you take could be potentially... No.
That's right. I mean, I ordinarily think that Cyber Demon fights are boring as hell, unless the setup's done in a very particular way. But when you suddenly face with the prospect of losing your entire game, then it's... your hands go sweaty. It's not good.
And chain gunners are a whole new level of evil when you are not saving or when you have just 2 health. That's
Pretty
fine
much the
too.
only point of discussion surrounding this map when it was being made was, from me, a slight complaint when it first came out. I think I must have been in a very, hello Sergeant, very peculiar frame of mind or something. Or maybe I was onto something when I said that it reminded me in places a little bit too much of what McGee would do with Ultimate Doom. I guess that's not really it's not really a valid complaint. I mean, he's a pretty consistent mapper, so saying that he does one thing, you know, none too differently the Ultimate Doom that he does in Doom 2 isn't really making an observation worthy of critique. Or critiquing, rather. In fact, I can't even remember what my criticism was, but in any case, it's undergone some changes. Tansman typically is very,
Well,
he retextures everything a billion times. Sometimes Tansman goes to the extent of just deleting the map entirely and then remaking it in a day. He's that quick, he can make that sort of decision, doesn't really bother.
there they are.
Yeah. This looks like a gloriously unwinnable situation.
No, actually, I remember that rocket launcher saves the day usually. No, not today.
To be honest, when I suggested that last time, I was surprised you got away with it.
Yeah, I was probably more surprised than you that I did get away with that. Well, that made for an amusing part of the video at least. So, as I was saying before, I was rudely interrupted millions of times. Okay, damn it, there is more! There's never a safe corner apparently, apart from this one room. Come on, auto-aim. Aim!
My money's on the chain gunner.
Yep.
Yay, that one!
And not even that one, a different chain gunner. Oh boy, okay, so, City. The only real complaint I have, besides what you already heard about it being a bit more specific in its theme, is I guess, I think it would have benefited from moving, I guess maybe the wharf, which was the second city map if I'm not mistaken, changing it, trading places with some other map somewhere else, because that was a bit like 3 maps which were very similar in a row, and then all the oddballs were in the later half. The Sanctum, well, not library, it was not really in the later half, but still. Also, I thought, well, after playing Exile, I thought that would have made a good little Inmost Dance style, kind of in some way, city map too. Well, it's probably a bit... Well, I don't know, we are in Hell now, so it's appropriate to talk about Hell levels by then. I think... well, I don't know about Borderlands, but when I went from the city levels to the Exile level, I didn't really feel any sort of difference in style, which should have been there, because we are going from city to Hell, even if there is some still transition, not like instant Hell, but there is some, and as you said, that one effect where parts of Earth were...
that's just my own interpretation. I don't think it was even mentioned or suggested as part.
It's just the Hell episode was supposed to have some Earth elements, but the style just wasn't, I guess, strange enough compared to the previous maps, the Leap of Faith and such. I would have probably exchanged the library or the wharf as the 2 levels that I liked, I guess. Well, I want to say like the least, because even that sounds harsh. The least awesome levels of the episode, I think those 2 were, because they were just the least fitting probably in my... Well, actually no, the wharf was fitting, but it was just too similar to the other ones, which were more memorable. And I would have expanded on Exile as a level on that style, and made it into a city level. If it was me, of course, if I was single-handedly managing the entire freaking project. Damn it, I'm saving after every enemy now. How low can we go?
This is the consequence. Well, look, I'm just thinking of Doom 2's progression for a moment, and I'm thinking of the sort of second half of V2. I think I mentioned at one point that Courtyard was almost like an inverted downtown. I guess sort of map 16 is a really ham-fisted sort of sandbox map. Really botchy and jagged, sort of half qualified. It is a sandbox map, but it's not really traditional. Or it is traditional because it's an original, but it's not what people really think of when they think sandbox maps. I mean, other than those 2, which are questionable, I reckon. I mean, what else you got? You got the tenements, you got the Citadel. I guess Industrial Zone is sort of sitting on the lip of it. I don't know. It doesn't really strike me. I mean, or rather, I think the way we've gone about doing the second half of E2 is somewhat similar. Perhaps, I mean, you're right in saying that maybe things could have been shifted around a little bit. Maybe we could have had, say, yeah, as you say, Wharf sort of bumped down to around map 15 or 16 or something like that. I don't think that would have looked out of place. But I don't think it's a major point. Regarding the transition to Hell, though, I mean, Nirvana kind of was... I mean, that wasn't really a sudden shift, or do you think it was? Because, if anything, Gotcha appeared more hellish to me than Nirvana did.
Well, I don't know about Gotcha, I don't really remember that too well, although it looked just like a way more ruined city. Kind of like what I said about Borderlands, that it felt also like a city.
Oh, right, yeah.
But Nirvana was suddenly, and maybe in part thanks to the music also, but of course it's the same in this wood.
Oh, yeah.
It felt like suddenly more strange, much more strange than before. Just that room, even the fucking medkits there, even they were kind of strange, and all the windows and corpses.
That is true. And then you got that weird New Kids room with the red ceiling and the lower
yeah,
pillars.
That was definitely, that was the the most blatant hell part I've ever seen. But even the opening shot was way more weird than the second episode was, I think. Even with the strange texture selections from the second episode and such, it still wasn't quite that weird. For most of it, but still, I think from the transition from the Doom 2 City episode to Nirvana was a bit stronger in contrast than this one. But I guess maybe that's just another difference in theme, which I really shouldn't. I mean, there is no reason they wouldn't have made it a bit more subtle like that. So I don't know. I'm just disturbed by the fact that I'm starting kind of to see maybe slightly touchdowns point, which I don't really want to admit.
Oh no!
No, shit!
I must say I haven't really been keeping up with that discussion. Hey, look, a Baron! How rare are these things?
Yeah.
I can't remember doing a count, but outside of one map that you haven't got to yet, I think we've... yeah, there are barely any Barons in this either.
This kind of feels like the first level of thy flesh consumed for... probably because of the Baron and the textures.
Yeah, this map really does. I think I mentioned that already, yeah. It does really remind me of E4M1 in a way.
I'm noticing, if anything, that so far these hell levels seem, or at least feel, a bit more open, just in the sense of there's more sky in them. Doom 2's levels, the hell levels, were very indoors.
Yeah, now that's interesting, because I think we might have been talking about that at one point. Oh wait, no, I'm mistaken. We're discussing E2, and at some point in the development there was a lack of sky, basically, and then we went on a investigation spree and discovered that there's actually quite a lot of it in E2, and we needed to live up to that, so we ended up fixing that. No, about E3, we didn't really talk about the sky much. Although, now that you've mentioned it, yeah, it is a lot more open than in Doom 2's. A couple of maps coming up that are, well, almost all sky, entirely. So it'll be interesting to see what you think after those have been done and dusted with. Regarding map 21 again, though, I mean, I guess what it comes down to is, if we were talking about more than just the one slot, then I think the point would carry a lot of weight. But I mean, we're really just talking about map 21 here, and you know what it conceivably could have done. And we just simply took the Sandy ideal of, you know, either creating sort of layout in which he could box ideas, which is what he did with Nirvana, or just sticking to one theme or concept and working with that, like he does with Barrels of Fun, for example. And so what Megaliths were thinking with his map 21 was just to prey upon that transitional idea. Hey, look, an Archfile. And so that's what he went for. He wasn't really going for the Sandy idea that said, okay, I'll just create a layout in which I can box ideas in a unique way to this map.
I don't know what I keep expecting each time I open a door or press a switch. I keep being surprised that, oh no, another horde of freaking hit scanners.
Actually, no, I do remember now that Tansman said, I want to make, at some point, nearing the project completion, he redid the thing placed in the map, at least to an extent, and said, I want to make this humanoid monsters. I didn't know why he thought that. Maybe he was sort of thinking of the slight gimmickiness that was to some of McGee's play. Hey, more shotgun guys.
Well, McGee's tech-based levels from Doom 2 sure didn't lack hit scanners in large hordes, so I guess maybe this is what... If he didn't feel like he made enough of that for episode 1, this is what he would have compensated with. Oh well. There was something on the tip of my... Oh yeah, the openness, the skyness of these hell levels does surely make them feel a bit more like Doom 1 hell, if anything. Because, as I said kind of quietly last minute or something, Doom 2's hell was really indoors. And Exile was probably like... Even though I said that it is not sufficiently weirder enough than the previous levels, it was kind of, in spirit, everything I love about Doom 2's hell. It's kind of not as blatant as... Well, probably you should kind of read... Well, I mean the viewers, of course. Apparently you read that all. My discussion with Touchdown in the thread about how... We said that... Well, I said that Doom 2's... I don't think I'm walking to the red door. Doom 2's hell was a bit more subtle in its strangeness, in that... yeah, this is definitely dead end. It was mostly a mix and match of more normal parts like city parts and such, but they were arranged in such weird ways that it could not have been anything but hell. Apart from little parts like Spirit World or that one part from Nirvana that you mentioned, which were outright hellish, but most of it was a bit more like Exile. So I don't know why that effect. I don't know. Maybe just the opening. Although no, the opening of Exile was kind of weird too. Okay, I remember there was a red door. There should definitely have been a red door.
Just
but
to make
where?
you feel a lot worse, this is probably like the third smallest map in the game.
Fun. I think I saw the red door before I got the blue key, so I noted, aha, I should remember where this red door is. Although, maybe it's not even... Unless the red door is behind the blue door, which would have been... No. And then I got the blue key and said, shit, I don't remember where the blue door was. And then I found it by accident, and I guess that completely made me forget about the freaking red door. Alright, let's be intelligent here for once. Use the auto map if there is any sort of...
Say, what's that sort of door over there?
Oh,
yeah.
a door!
Yeah.
Chain gunners? Sure. But yeah, that's... I don't remember if I said everything I wanted to say, but that's pretty much it. Although... I think... Yeah, I think... Maybe some other maps in the city episode could have been shuffled about. I mean, the precinct was considerably easier than some of the previous maps I found, and smaller.
Well, I don't think the difficulty of the maps necessarily needs to follow an exact trend, or if it does follow a trend, it's very, very bobbly. You'll get maps in Doom 2 that are just extremely easy, you know, whether it's continuous or pistol start, compared to the maps either side of it. Yeah. Suburbs, by the way, is a very, very fun map to play from pistol start, for those of you listening, as well as map 21. And map 21 in particular, actually, now that I mentioned it for the third time probably this playthrough. Hey, look at that switch just hugging the floor. That's, I think Tarsman did that because McGee actually did occasionally just peg things in such a way as to...
There was an exit. I thought some awful chap was about to be sprung, so I was very cautious there, as you could have probably seen, but no, it's just an exit. Crushed Spirits, aha! I remember this name. Nothing but the name.
Say, I wonder what the pun is there.
The world, I guess. Okay. Everyone is dead.
So, in contrast to the last map, this thing does have a bit of history. And really, Marquette, a resident mapper, really has to be commended. So do you for falling to that trap. I don't see it often enough. Hopefully you'll fall to every single trap that has been placed in this map.
Oh boy.
No, look, he's come on leaps and bounds, really. I think of all the mappers, he's probably the one who really believed in the goal enough to sort of dedicate himself to the task, completely reforming the way in which he maps in someone else's style. I mean, I think I've said before, myself and Tarsman have had the benefit of sort of starting almost from scratch. Jimmy was very difficult for him, of course, since he's a Jimmy, and he does a lot of Jimmy maps. Marquette, incidentally, I didn't do that much mapping beforehand, if any, but he sort of already had a way of making maps that was very... if I say sloppy, it sounds very rude, but I think he'll know what I'm talking about. His geometry is very, very wonky, which in a way lends to a sandy design, but some of the ways in which he implemented the ideas was not particularly sandy, and so the first iteration of this map was completely different. It was essentially a different map entirely. It just had the same name, working on the same idea, and pretty much everyone disliked it, except for Caesar. Good old Caesar, who sort of really pressed the issue and suggested that the Marquette remake it, and then we all suggested that Marquette remade it, and then he did a million times, and over again. So this is all his map, all he's doing. I think the layout at the very end, Tansman sort of just shuffled around so it appeared more sandy on the auto map. But other than that, I think this is a very good effort. And very fun to play as well. I haven't played this one from pistol start personally, but if it's a proper sandy map, then no doubt it'll be stupidly difficult compared to continuous play.
I don't think there's going to be any map that's more difficult from pistol start than Exile, so I am looking forward to trying and seeing.
Oh, well, that's just disgusting. There you go. That's better, isn't it? Doesn't swamp the screen with text. I can read it all in one go. I don't have to remember where I left off last time.
That's just boring. Oh,
that's
well.
just boring.
Definitely wanted to say something while you were talking, but I completely forgot by the time you finished.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, you talk way too long. I don't know. Continue. That's what I've come to expect of you as a guest. I'll remember at some point, maybe not. I think it was around here that I want to say. Maybe I'll remember better if I walk this path again.
Maybe you'll remember if I talk some more. Also, one thing that's great about this map is the way it morphs. A lot of areas, it's kind of like the pit in that way. A lot of areas opening up into areas you've already revisited. There you go. Do you remember it now?
Yes.
Hello, E1 mate.
Oh, balls. Okay, so my thought was as follows. There is a lot of time when we talk about a level, any level, about whether what is it as a hell level, what is it as a city level, when I usually mean like what place is trying to depict. And I've noticed from your words at least that it makes you make it sound like you people were the thought process when just making maybe a new map, when deciding, when thinking about a new map, you make it seem like it was more of okay, I'm going to make a map by this author and I'm going to use these textures, or I'm going to make it look and style close to this map, and not I'm going to make this place. And I'm not sure if people in id, when were they making Doom 2, when they were making the maps, when they thought, okay, I'm going to make a downtown or a suburbs map and then figure out how it would look, or if they were just making random shit and then calling it something appropriate. But I don't know, it's just something I noticed, that each time I hoped for some real profound insight on, we were sitting down and thinking what sorts of places hell would be in Doom 2, and we just used these textures and we just made this map with these gameplay elements from Sandy layouts and such, and never any thought about, although actually I don't really know what sort of places Doom 2 Hell would contain, but still, I think you should get what I'm talking about here. Is it true? Is my perception here any true at all?
Well, we didn't really have the luxury of thinking about how we wanted to go about making a map the same way as it did. We couldn't do it because we also had the task of trying to be as authentic as possible, replicating someone else's style. It didn't have to do that. So when we went about thinking to make a map, we had to really focus on just adapting our understanding of almost taking a more clinical, technical approach. And once you sort of honed in what it is that you have to do in that respect, then it's very easy to just say, okay, we'll tack on this theme, or we'll take this idea. I mean, not all the maps are born about the same way. Obviously, with this, Marquette was thinking, I want to do crushing theme, and that's a very authentic and perfectly fine thing to say, because you can. That's obviously what Sandy would have said when he did Barrels of Fun, for example, or even something like Monster Condo. Although that one's a little more questionable. It certainly has a concept, but it might have been more indirect or roundabout than that. What it really comes down to the complexities with the next map, the one I'm going to get to in a moment. This map's quite large, actually, so not in a moment, more like 20 minutes being an Antroid. And maps like the Causeway, where you wanted to copy the simplicity of Sandy, say, for instance, but you can't copy the simplicity of Sandy without copying his reusing ideas that have been done in Doom 2, and then thus, sort of getting complaints from the Doom community. So the best thing you can do is just take the idea that he's given you, and then reuse it, but then add an additional element to make it seem fresh. So Causeway is downtown, but that's what Hansman thought. He said, I'm going to do downtown, but I'm also going to have to add this, otherwise it'll be downtown. So this way it'll be Sandy will have all the Sandy elements, but people aren't going to say, it's not going to look like it's just been directly copied. So that's the thought process mostly behind. Those are the main two ways in which we've gone about, well, at least for Sandy, because I focus more on him. Giving how those maps come about, sort of inception of them.
Well, he was definitely more liberal with depicting a location than any of the other mappers, but yeah, I don't think there was really any reason for you guys not to think of, like, we're going, well, like, as an example of a very conceptually strong and very specific in its idea map, kind of like the Flooded Library or the your map Bedlam. I guess the idea of the place could have come first, and then you would think, which mapper would have made this map and how he would have made this map. But I really want to make a Flooded Library, or I really want to make a city that's kind of ruined by earthquakes or something. It looks like
Oh, you mean, okay, which one came first? Sort of the idea behind the concept of the map before the author? I really like to tell you, in truth I can't actually remember which one I thought first. Was it Sandy, or was it I want to make a sort of city that was collapsed? I suspect, I'd love to be able to say and to sort of silence the argument right now by saying that I just thought of Sandy first, but I suspect that it was probably the concept. I suspect I said, I just want to make this idea. And maybe, to be harsh on myself, and truthful maybe to an extent, if the concept didn't seem to fit any of the author's preference, like if McGee or Romero or Sandy, although the last one's very hard to believe because Sandy could have done anything in his own way, I think. If they didn't fit the concept, probably I would have gone to the extent of just trying to make it work anyway, even if it was less it. But then I'm sure the rest of the members on the team would have said, that map doesn't work, Alfonso, too bad it's not being included. Gotta be harsh.
Okay. Well, I cannot, at least I haven't studied the maps enough to think of a theme that any of the authors would not have done. Guess maybe Sandy would not have done anything really specific, but still, you could probably make a very, very abstract something.
Yeah. I'm talking more about concepts. So he could have taken any concept and then done it in his own style, but
yeah,
concepts not really entailing, the extent to which it looks like a starport, say.
Yeah, I usually don't even think of a map's concept. First of all, when I'm thinking of a map, and I mean not even while making a map, I mean even just any map I've played or I've known about. First thing I think about the map, and probably what makes it interesting or not interesting to me, is what sort of place it tries to be, and then what it is like, if it has any gameplay gimmicks or something like that. Because that, for all I care, if a map's got an interesting theme, it could be just a boring slog with shooting people that appear directly before you, and I'd still enjoy it.
Oh, well, I mean, no matter which order in which the concept we came up with was...
Oh boy.
Now, this is interesting what you're doing here. The resolution of this, I'd love to see what you're... what was I saying? This is one of my favourite traps.
Something about the resolution?
I just want to see how you resolve it.
Not well.
With the BFG! Okay. No matter in which the idea of the sort of concept came up, and whether we decided I want to make a Sandy map and then I want it to be in this, want to have this idea behind it, or vice versa. Once you knew what mapper you were using, then you would have the confidence, in knowing what the technical aspects of his design philosophy was, to be able to not let the sort of theme of it overwhelm you. So you just end up making boxes with textures, and that's the end of it. I mean, you can be the judge of that. You can say whether a map feels Sandy or not, or Romero or not, despite the fact that it has a very strong theme. And you can say, okay, clearly Essel or Alfonso or Thompson wasn't overwhelmed with the idea of making a map that was, bloodied or techie or something like that, and just ended up making boxes and stuff. Or you can say they failed. So that happened.
When you were talking about the resolution, I thought you were talking about my low resolution display thing and not how I was going to resolve that problem. And I was, wait,
yeah.
What was about the resolution that makes this room special? Maybe that the floor is very noisy, but no, apparently it's just how much I was going to fail with the Revenants.
It's a shame, Antroid, because that's really fun to do.
What?
Get to rush to the end of the corridor, open it up, quickly dash in, and...
For some reason I didn't really think I was going to be able to open it up, although there is really no reason, because Doom doesn't have this sort of thing where you have to kill everyone before something opens. But, Z-Doom pixel thing on the edge there. When it's you can see a couple pixels from these lamps on the very edge.
Oh well,
I hate that stuff when Z-Doom does this stuff. Oh well, I remember now what you told about the teleporters in Sandy maps.
Yeah.
And since I want to check out the optional stuff, I'm gonna go in the trap. Oh, it wasn't very hard yet. Alright, let's see. This looks like something I don't want to even touch.
You're right about that. Shit. It's a very inventive little piece. I recommend you give it a go, although you sort of had to trap yourself out of it. Oh, well.
Well, it just looked like it was supposed to be traversed the other way because the platforms were going higher and higher. I thought maybe I would end up on the other side at some point and jump down like that one part.
Well, with the yeah, it's called Crushed Spirit, so you can put 2 and 2 together and figure out what the hell's going to happen to you there.
I can think of a couple maps in this world before this one that could have been called Crushed Spirits without any sort of gimmick. It'd still be completely justified.
It's not very nice.